Welcome everyone to our first episode of Savor Newark, the podcast. A little bit about this podcast. In case you don't know, Savor Newark is an annual food symposium brought to you by PLUSABLE, an opportunity to bring key stakeholders that directly impact the food scene in Newark. In our opinion, Newark is the authentic food capital in the nation, and this podcast allows for that conversation to keep on going throughout the year. This year, Savor Newark is going to be held on May 16th. Stay tuned for more information on that. Now, with me today, we have our first guest, the genius chef, Cliff Mills, the man behind Afro Taco. Chef, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So, you're originally from Ghana,
Yes.
then you came to Newark.
Yes.
Both Ghana and Newark are very known for being quite diverse. Do you think that diversity has shaped your approach to food as you mix both the African flavors with the Mexican?
Absolutely. Diversity is important. And when I transitioned to, the culinary world, I didn't want to do anything that was plain or something that was just, traditional. I wanted to kind of throw things that people would not ever expect together. And then that's when I came up with the Ghanaian and the Mexican fusion. I love Ghanaian food. Ghanaian cuisine is so underrated. It's one of the most amazing foods that you can have. And the Mexican culture, my respect and my admiration for Mexican food, it just made sense when the two came together. It's an interesting story about how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
One day, I've been catering for 20 years. I worked with troubled kids for 20 years. I was a director at a treatment facility. And during that time, I catered. I did a lot of catering. I did a lot of events. And I would cater traditional foods, salmon, shrimp. But one of my main things was high quality foods. And one day I came home and I had all my stuff. I had some leftovers. And my wife, she's like, I'm in the mood for a burrito. So she took, some jerk chicken and I had some jollof rice. She put it all together with some beans and things like that. And she tasted it with my sauces and the spices. And she's like, Cliff, you have to taste this. And I'm like, no, I'm not hungry. I'm hungry. She said, no, you have to taste it. And then I tasted it and it was like magical. And I'm like, wow. So that's when I started curating and creating and thinking about how to mainstream and make it into a whole product. And now you have, Afro Taco.
Were you the type of person that would experiment like that, or it just happened? It was your wife's idea to just, we have some leftovers, let's be creative, and it just happened? Or you always, as a chef or as a creative person, you've always tried to mix some flavors?
As a chef, you have to, I was cooking yesterday, and one of my staff, he was like, Cliff, you're doing this like it's art. And I say, it is art to me. It's art. I'm very creative when it comes to cooking. I like to try different things. That's a great thing about cooking. You can mix a little bit of this flavor, a little bit of this seasoning, and you can get something completely different each time. So that's the thrill of it. That's the draw of it for me. It's how creative and how out of bounds you can get. You know what I mean? I don't like to be in a box.
Mm-hmm.
I like to just try and experiment, diverse, try different things. I love, putting different flavors together.
Mm-hmm. You come from a pretty rich African background. West Africa, close to Burkina Faso, that region is all very vibrant and also very eco-diverse.
Yes.
How was growing up in Newark? You came at the age of 7.
Yeah.
How was you building your personality in Newark, but while keeping the African roots very present?
Growing up in as a foreigner in Africa, you really have a sense of self. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain it because of the rich culture that you come from. So when I came here at 7, I had a sense of who I am and who I wanted to be. But it was a cultural shock coming from African culture to America, and it's something completely different. I didn't know how to speak English. People weren't receptive to newcomers into the community like that. So it was just like a really tough transition for me.
Mhm.
It took me, years to acclimate. And looking back, that shaped who I am. You know what I mean? Because it makes you tougher. It gives you tough skin. But once I got the hang of it and what it was like to survive in Newark and to be able to thrive.
You became unstoppable.
Yes. Yeah. I just, with that knowledge of yourself, with your cultural background and
That
growing up,
resilience.
that resilience, and then growing up in Newark and actually, making it and being a pillar in the community, that really just that became an amazing mix.
Because now, fast forward, you're also very connected with the community, and you like to give back and support the youth and these events. Do you think that it comes from that, all those hardships, but also making it in Newark also gives you that sense of responsibility also towards Newark and giving back to Newark?
You know, Newark is a special place. Is a special place to be a part of. Is a special place to grow up. It's so diverse. You have so many different things happening in the city. Is a cultural renaissance. It's an art renaissance. It's so many things that's happening in Newark. But for me growing up, I've always had a sense for helping people. I remember, when I was young, I got one of my. I lived in 440 Elizabeth Avenue, right, growing up, which is a huge community of people. And at the age of 13, somebody nominated me for the Young Black Men of the Year award. I never knew what that award meant. I never knew what it was, but somebody saw something in me to nominate me for it, and I actually got an award for it. I went to Essex County. And once I remember getting that award and walking home with it, it just instilled something in me like, wow. And I felt like a sense of serious pride in the city. So I didn't know what my path was going to be. But one day
How old were you?
I was 13 at the time. Um, and after that, growing up and working, just regular jobs, going to college and finding regular jobs, I ended up working at a place called Bonnie Bray. It's a treatment facility, and I didn't know how that would shape my who I am. Just a kid from Africa and a kid from Newark. I started working there, and it's working with troubled boys. These are considered the worst of the worst kids that you could work with. There's a whole gambit of stuff that they have, and they're court ordered there. They can't go home. They can't go home, and a judge has to put them there. It's a last resort. Some of them have been in jail. Some of them haven't. And doing that, I just started off as a night staff, and within 6 years, I became a director of that program. Um, and I never knew how important it is to help others, and that shaped. Once I got the concept of it's not about me, it's about helping people that are less fortunate. And bringing it back to Newark, while I was doing that, I volunteered at the Newark YMCA one day, and I saw some of my former kids there, and it just struck a nerve. It struck something in me. I said, you know what, I got to do more. I'm doing this as a job, but I have to do more. And so um, I partnered up with the Newark YMCA, and we would feed families of 300 people monthly. We would do that every month. We did it for years until I started my businesses, and then once that it became too much to do. But that partnership still continues, where we partner up with people like the New York Jets. We partner up with the City of Newark, the Mayor's Office, Ras Baraka, um, you know, councilmen, celebrities, and we've been instrumental in just giving back to the Newark YMCA and other charities throughout the city.
That's great. So there was a point in your life that you were recognized, obviously, because of this great essence, and being so young, instead of there was no room for vanity. So all you felt was a sense of purpose and responsibility. And that definitely shaped the person that you are and the entrepreneur that you are as well. Um, from 13, when that did that interest in culinary began? Uh, I know that you started with the catering,
Right.
but how did you become
Well, I never knew
involved?
I never knew I had a love for cooking. What happened is that it's just based out of survival. You know, the time that we grew up in was a time where our parents, you came from two working household parents, and both of my parents had two jobs. They would work all day, and you know, being from that community, it was so many of us, and we consider ourselves cousins. So, I was one of the older ones. So one of my responsibilities was making sure that my siblings, my brother, my sister, my cousins got fed. And it was through trial and error. I remember those days where I would burn rice and I would just burn things, and we would still try to eat it and things like that. So it came from,
You still had to
necessity.
eat it.
Yeah, yeah. We still, we growing up at that time, we didn't have much, so we had to make things work. So for me, it just came out of just sheer survival, and my parents just saying you have to cook dinner tonight, and we had to figure it out. So it was through trial and error, and I became very good at it at a certain point, and people just used to just look for me to cook. So I still didn't think it was going to lead to me to a career later on down the line, but it's amazing how God shapes your future without you realizing it.
And what was that moment that you realized, oh, this is my calling?
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I, during my time where I worked with the kids, I catered. I catered. I had a company called Off the Grill because one of the things I always did was I always wanted to cook healthy. So we always did things that were grilled. We didn't fry a lot of food, so we kept things pretty healthy. Um, the moment when I realized that I can do something with this, um, man, that's a good question. It was just the way people responded to the food. The way people respond, I will pay for this. Can I buy this? Can you cook this for me? We'll pay for it. And that's when I said, you know what, maybe I can do something with this. So it was just like a series of things.
Remember the first dish that you realized, people really like this.
One of my famous dishes that when I was young too, and people used to always ask me to cook baked ziti or lasagna. I was a fan of Italian food. I love Italian
My
food.
my lasagna is also pretty.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things, and lasagna is one of those things that you got to put. It's layers, and you have to put care into what you're doing, and it's like meticulousness. You create the sauce, and you make sure the sauce is amazing, and then you layer it. So I would take my time and I would make it amazing, and people used to go crazy for my baked ziti and my lasagna. So that was probably one of my first dishes that I created. And thinking about that, I haven't made lasagna in years, probably like over 10
Don't
years.
forget to call me when you.
I got you. I got you. But yeah, that was my staple. It was, I used to cook a lot of Italian food just because that was one of my favorites. Now, African food was different because African food is a process.
Right.
So my mother was one of she was the one who would cook the peanut soups and the stews and the fufu and the egusi. She would do that, and it's not until more recent that I learned how to make those things. But just thinking back, I used to make a lot of Italian food.
hmm And the whole Afro Taco operation.
Yes.
When did you go from maybe I'll buy some, I want to buy that, your baked ziti is amazing, your lasagna is amazing, to no, I need to get this off the ground?
Well, in a business sense, you have to have something that's kind of streamlined. You know what I mean? There's something that would draw people in, that makes sense. Well, at first it didn't make sense to people, um, and you have to have something that that's going to taste great. And that's going to be able to, that you can scale. So when I was thinking about what kind of, restaurant I would go into, I knew I didn't want, a big restaurant to start. I wanted a food truck. I wanted something small, something fast casual. So the concept, I liked what I saw with Chipotle. I used to go there and my food was similar to Chipotle. So that's when I started, streamlining it to more like, okay, I'm gonna do it like this, but I'm gonna have the African and the Mexican twist to it, and it's been hugely popular. So, um, yeah, what was behind that.
When did you launch exactly? The
Afro Taco was launched in 2017. No, I'm sorry, 2013. Yeah, 2013.
And you're arguably one of the most, if not the most successful, at least lunch truck I know. And how do you explain your success?
Oh man, just success period is just resilience.
Mhm.
Resilience every day. You got to get up and you got to put in the work. If you don't put in the work, you can't be successful. You got to have a plan. You got to do some research. You have to take some classes. I remember when I first I was telling my wife I wanted to do a food truck. And one day she came out of nowhere and she had signed me up for a food truck class. And that was one of the most instrumental things for me. I took a food truck class, I took a business class, and I remember the food truck class, they said, we were taking in and you have to create your concept and your business plan and things like that. And one of the things that they said, well, the average price of a food on a food truck is $6. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So, for me, I was gonna bring high-end food, 5-star quality food on the food truck.
And it's true, because I
That's
tried
what
it. It's
that's
really
what that's what we've done. I wanted to bring 5-star food, because you think about our community, we're not used to getting, the best of the best food. Sometimes you go to lunch trunks and you're getting, fried things. And nothing against that. It's times where I want that stuff, but I wanted things to be healthy. I wanted to give people the option to get like the, high end things. So that's what I did, and it was, you have to make it the price point to match. So that's when I came up with that.
and it was so successful that you actually opened your elevated uh, restaurant, 𝐒𝐲,
Yes,
which is also the name of your firstborn child,
yes,
twin.
yes.
You just mentioned your wife. Um, how how is the family important, and how is it been shaping your approach to being in business? Because I know that you're very family driven.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're the driving force behind it. Everything that I do is because of my family, because of my wife, my kids, my community. I have a need to want to be successful, and not just for myself, because when they look at me, they can say, this kid from Newark, this kid from Africa, he's successful. You know what I mean? I grew up in a place where everybody doesn't have that, and every black man is not looked at as a businessman or successful. So for me, growing up, I had that sense of purpose and that sense of I want to break that stereotype. I want to be, known as somebody who's a black man from Africa, from Newark, and he's successful, and he's doing things in the community. So that's the driving force behind it. It's community, family, and God.
Mhm.
You can't do anything without God in your life.
This restaurant, you went, now you're actually expanding. So from Newark now you're West Orange. Tell me a little bit of this operation and what also makes 𝐒𝐲 unique. You elevated even more. So you didn't want the cheap lunch truck. So that was never your approach. Your food is really quality food, and now you elevated even more
Right.
at this restaurant. Um, just elaborate more on the concept and.
So the concept of co-fine cuisine is it's just Afro Taco, African, Mexican, American cuisine, but on the elevated status. We just want to create the experience for people when you come into a restaurant where you're treated like a 5-star customer, and you also have 5-star food. You have the best of everything, and that's what we wanted to create. And um, 𝐒𝐲 has proven to be that. It's been very successful. It's an amazing restaurant, and it's also award winning, like Afro Taco. One of the great things that I take pride in, and I'm not an accolades person because we get a lot of accolades. Um, but one of the most, things that when I did receive it, I kind of like took back and said, I'm proud of this thing, was when we was voted the top 20 restaurants in the state of New Jersey, as a food truck. That's a huge deal. There's 28,000 restaurants in the state of New Jersey, and to
It's
be
not a food truck, it's the.
is the food truck. So for us to get that, 2 years ago, and for this year to be in the top 20 restaurants, one of only 3 restaurants in the city of Newark to get that accolade, I take tremendous pride in that we have something in Newark that people can say, it's one of the top things in Newark. But the restaurant is just, that's what it is. I wanted to create something where we also create employment for our people. I don't want to just have a restaurant where I want to create businesses and create opportunities for, people in the community also. And that's what we have. We have some amazing staff, some amazing customers. We have celebrities that come there. We have athletes that come there. We have, political leaders that come there. And it's for everyone. And everyone that comes there, they love the place. And that was what the intended purpose was.
Mhm. You have tremendous pride in representing your African roots and also Newark. What do you think that makes Newark and the food scene in Newark so unique?
Is the diversity of it. It's probably one of the only places that you can, you know, go to North Newark and get the Spanish experience. You can get Spanish food. You can get all types of things there. And you can go to East Newark and get, the finest food from Spain and Portugal. And you can go to the South Ward and get, soul food. And you can go get Caribbean food. And you can get food from Trinidad, and you can get African food. It's just so diverse, richly diverse. And people don't realize how important that is and how we take that for granted because recently my wife relocated to North Carolina with my kids. We live in two states now. And it's not as diverse. So when I'm there, I'm like, man, I can't just go to, you know, to Spain's and get food that I want from there. You know what I mean? I can't go to North Newark and get rice and beans with some andules and things like that. You can't do that. So we are really blessed to have a very diverse food scene in the city of Newark.
And I guess we only realize it when we're not in Newark.
Well, you realize that quick when you're not in Newark.
Can we expect maybe Afro Taco in North Carolina anytime soon?
I mean, that's that's the goal for me. And sometimes when you have your goals, you can get thrown off a little bit. And when the restaurant did that for me, it kind of like took me off the path of Afro Taco because one of my goals, I had 2 food trucks, and I wanted to expand and get several brick and mortar Afro Taco and expand like that. But once I opened a restaurant, the restaurant is a cumbersome thing. And recently I've been, my wife and I and my kids, we've been talking about, you know, going back to Afro Taco and expanding on that. So that's definitely in the plans. Also just expanding throughout the state of New Jersey. We have a tremendous following. We have people that come from Philly. We have people that come from South Jersey. We have people that come from Livingston. We have a huge base in Livingston. I don't know why, but we have a lot of different people that's pulling. So I would love to see Afro Taco in those different places. And so Right now, we're looking for investors, and we're looking to expand into brick and mortar, fast casual type of setting for Afro Taco.
And I'm pretty sure you're going to get those investors.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout this journey, what has been the best part of it all?
Man, the growth, the growth. You know, personally, for me, it's I've grown so much as a person, and also um, my connections, the people that you meet along the way. You know, I value connections. You know, you think about you guys. We met from doing um, our event at the Newark Museum, and if you look at, you know, when you invest in people, you know, we invested in you guys, and you guys invested in us. And now look where it's come full circle, where I'm doing your first podcast, which is pretty cool. So, so for me, it's all about connections. You know, you know, I'm so blessed. The other day I was looking through my phone, and I have people in my phone that I can call and speak to that you see on TV. You know what I mean? That people that you just don't have access to on a day-to-day basis, and I'm so thankful for that. You know, that's been the best part of the journey. You know, my kids, they see the work every day. They're part of it. My wife, she's there supporting everything that I do. And, you know, and also the ups and downs. You have to embrace that as a part of the journey. The journey is not just up. It's the downs, you know, how you respond to that, how resilient you can be, because this is not, you know, for the weak, so to speak.
It's definitely not. You also touched on the topic of Newark going through a renaissance, culturally, um, artistic. So, why do you think that Newark is getting all of this momentum and these investments and it's growing every day?
I think I just think is like what we talked about, the diversity. You know, the diversity, the people, um, the you know, it's a hub for, you know, for people to grow. And I think businesses see that. You know, I remember when Prudential Center wasn't there. Um, the biggest company we had here was just Prudential, the insurance company. And from there, I watched us get NJ they built NJ you know, the Prudential Center. So if you look at the Renaissance, it's happened right before our eyes, where corporations, real corporations, are coming in, and you know, it's building up the city, and it's taking us to a whole nother level. And I think it's the people, you know, it's the people of the city, it's the diversity of the city. There's a lot of events that I go to, and you see so many different people from all types of backgrounds and all types of, you know, skill set and things like that. And, you know, when you have that and it's welcomed and it's embraced, you get to do something special like what Newark is doing right now.
You're a man of great talent and sophisticated taste. In terms of your favorite food, if you were to pick a specific food, what's your favorite food?
Oh man, my favorite food, um, besides Ghanaian food, um, would be Thai. I love Thai food.
Because of the peanuts too.
Well, it's not. I don't draw to the peanut dishes, but the depths of flavor and the simplicity of it. And it's simple yet amazing. And that's my cooking style. That's my cooking style. My cooking style has always been simple, amazing ingredients, but simple cooking. You know, I like to taste the like if I'm eating fish, I want to taste the fish. You know what I mean? If I'm eating steak, I want to taste the steak. So I don't want a whole bunch of seasoning and things that takes away from it. I like simple flavor, simple quality, yet amazing. And that's Thai food. You know, it's not too many ingredients in it, but when it comes together, it's amazing.
I love Pad Thai. I love drunken noodles.
Drunken noodles. I can eat
It's the
that
best.
anytime. I can eat it for breakfast. I can eat it for dinner. I can eat it, and I never get tired of
They
it.
cracked a code there or something. Drunken
That's it.
noodles, amazing.
It's one of the most underrated dishes ever.
I know.
So that's always my go-to. And I actually, go different places trying drunken noodles. I go to different Thai places, and
I know. I'm a drunken noodle
yeah.
kind of guy too.
But that's probably one of my top favorite foods. I also love Indian food. My kids, oh man, they look up Indian places, and I was there with my kids last week in North Carolina, and we found an Indian place in North Carolina. Hey, we got to go and try their food, and we went, and they're sophisticated when it comes to Indian food. They look menu and they notice stuff, and we order different things and we try it, and so um, yeah, those are some of my favorites.
I love Indian food as well. I play an Indian instrument too, so I play a lot of Indian weddings. So
Wow.
I like palak paneer with the cheeses. I like tikka masala, although it's pretty basic. I
Tikka
know,
masala.
but I'm such a tikka masala fan.
That's my kids. But once again, we go back to the simple, but yet amazing. You know what I mean? That's what I take pride in, when things are simple yet amazing. And that's what we do at the restaurant. Our food is, people are like, what did you put in here? What did you? And we use the most simplest ingredients, like my ribeye. People are like, what kind of seasoning is on here? We use salt and pepper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And probably one other thing, and that's it. So it's just, when you simplify things, it tastes amazing.
Sometimes less is more.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I know that you're at this moment thinking of maybe expanding the lunch truck operation. We have a few ideas, looking for investors. But what can people truly expect from you in the future? Expansion, going other states, even internationally, completing the cycle and establishing partnerships with Africa. What can we expect from your genius?
That's you hit it right on the nail. I would love to, at some point in the near future, get back to Ghana and do something there, because that's my homeland, and it's nothing like Africa. I was just talking to we were just talking earlier, and there's Africa is just like, it's home. Once you touch the land, it's nothing like it. And I would love to, full circle, have my family back there, at least living there part time. And expansion. And the big thing for expansion for me is to be able to provide franchising opportunity to minorities. I think that's important. I think a lot of the franchises that we have now is not accessible to minorities. I just think that's important for me to be able to provide opportunities for people to be able to own something like an Afro Taco that can be successful, like a McDonald's. So you have to dream big. If your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough.
I know a lot of this young generation, they look at you as a huge role model that you are. Not only young, everyone should look at you as a huge inspiration. Is there any message you'd like to send people that admire your work, accompany your journey, young kids that look at you and maybe fantasize one day being successful like you?
One of the things I always tell people is, you have to have mentors. In life, you have to have mentors, period. I have about, 10 mentors, and they're all way older than me. And ever since I was a kid, I've always enjoyed the company of older folks, and it's not just, they have infinite wisdom. They've done it already. So for me, for the youth, is get mentors. Get with people who are in your field or whatever it is that you're doing, and stick with them. Learn from them, ask some questions and get all the information that you can get. I also like to tell people, if you're going to do something, study it. Don't just think, oh, I'm going to start a business. You can't. It's not going to work, because once you run into real problems, you're not going to have the tools to be able to fix it. So you have to get some real knowledge of what you're doing. And you have to have God. You know, God is, if you don't have God, if you don't have faith, it's not going to work, you know, because it's when you're doing something that requires, you know, that's huge, you know, you're going to need that faith. You're going to need faith to know that I'm walking blindly into something and it's going to work because God's got my back. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, yeah, those are some of the most important things. And you have to have support. You have to have support, and you have to have confidence, and you have to have work ethic. You know, a lot of people have this thing where they want success, but they don't have the work ethic. You know, for me, I don't do a lot of partnerships because I realize most people don't have the work ethic. They have the idea and they have these grand things, but they don't, you know, it's a everyday little steps that's important to being successful. So you know, that's probably some of the most important things to me.
I guess we already touched all the main topics. Any final ideas? Any last thing that you'd like to just share that I didn't ask?
Um, I just thank you guys for what you're doing. I think this is a great platform. Um, you know, when we met a few years ago, it was an honor. You know, you guys very professional, and you know, I just enjoy working with people who are professional. And this, you know, good luck with the podcast. It's going to do great things. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. People that want to follow you, where can they follow 𝐒𝐄𝐻, Afro Taco?
Well, we on Afro Taco food truck, Afro_Taco on Instagram, 𝐒𝐄 Fine Cuisine, 𝐒𝐄-Fine Cuisine on Instagram, and we also have our website, www.𝐒𝐄FineCuisine.com. Check us out. Come through. Be a part of something great. You know. So that's
it.
about it.
Be a part of something great. Thank you so much. This was our
Yeah.
great conversation with Chef Cliff Mills. Always amazing, always super inspirational. Follow us at +able_PR and Savor Newark as well. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Awesome. That was great.